Yet again, another interesting week in the Premier League. I'm here with Fionn and Liam for the first time in a while. Hi, lads.
Well,
So I suppose Liam, the first place that I'd like to start really was Sunday's derby clash, Manchester United against Manchester City. United coming away with 3 points and a two-goal win at the Etihad. So would you like to give us your opinions on that one?
yeah. I mean, what a win for Man United. They didn't dominate the game in a lot of areas on stats, but if you watch the game, they really did. They had really high counters. They pushed players like Gundogan and De Bruyne far back. They didn't give players like Sterling or Jesus a chance. They were really restricted. And I mean, the stats say it here, though. I mean, City had 66% possession, 23 shots. I mean, but the thing is, then the clinicality wasn't half of what it should have been, because United only had 8 shots and 34 possession, but both teams only had 6 shot on target each. For Man United, that was great because they had 8 shots, but 23 shots for Man City and 6 on target with no goals. So the strikers for City, the attacking play wasn't up to their standard, and they'll be disappointed that their 28 game unbeaten run has come to an end. But I don't really think Pep Guardiola would be too disappointed. I think he'll probably see it as a bit of a silver lining, because they've gone 28 games unbeaten, and now 28 games unbeaten, and now they've been exposed in certain areas, and Pep Guardiola can fix that. He's a genius. He's one of the best managers of the 21st century, in my opinion, and all he can fix this now. So now that he knows that his weak spots have been exposed, he can fix this easily. No doubt Man City are a very strong team, but Man United will be really happy with that victory. I mean, they played some good football. They got their goals from their clinicality. Luke Shaw was my man at the match. Brilliant. Watching him run down the left flank, I thought he was great. Defensive wise, everyone looked solid. Harry Maguire had a great game. Victor Lindelof, even, he's come under a lot of criticism over him starting over players like Eric Bailly recently. But no, I thought he was great. I felt like in attacking play, I have a lot of praise for Anthony Martial. I feel like that game highlighted some of his more stronger aspects. There was a couple of decisions that he made that I still would question. There was a one-on-one he had with Ederson, and he chose to shoot it right at him, which I thought was poor decision making. But any other day he gets a second chance to do that, he can smash that in to make it 3-0, which he should have done. But he still drew the penalty in the first minute, and he was superb at winning the ball back and taking it off the pitch. So he's probably starting to realise now that he needs to fight for his place in the team, because he's playing for Manchester United. I really doubt he wants to be sold. So
Fionn, sorry Liam to cut you off, but Fionn, in terms of the penalty, um, a stupid decision really from Gabriel Jesus with with a good few players around Martial in the box. What do you think was going through Gabriel Jesus's head? Like, is there any way you could condone that sort of a decision in the Manchester derby?
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't think you can. But at first, I was just confused of why he was back in their box chasing Martial in the first place, because some of the midfielders, they weren't in the box, and he was just in the box when there's still plenty of defenders around him, and it's very rash, and he just goes in, he makes the challenge, and it's just stupid. But to be fair, like, he did well. Martial did well on the ball. There was so many around him, and he was dribbling well, and the whole team did good to win it back. But yeah, I just think it's not good enough from Jesus in general. He didn't even. Oh, yeah.
Well, do you think it was just because at the in the first minute, I think it was like the first 34 seconds or something like that, but he's just lost the ball in midfield, sort of carelessly lost the ball. Might I add, Manchester United midfield, as soon as he got the ball from the throw-in, you had Fred, Fernandes and Luke Shaw all sort of pressing him, like a pack of wild dogs, and he gives the ball away, and I suppose in the heat of the moment goes back and he sort of tugs at Martial's jersey and then goes for his legs, and it is really shameful. But obviously Bruno, he put the penalty away, as we all knew he would. Liam, for the second goal, Luke Shaw makes a bursting run through the middle. How much? I definitely rated Dean Henderson's performance on Sunday. I thought he was absolutely fantastic in nets. How much? What part I suppose did he have to play in Luke Shaw beating Joe Cancelo there?
I mean, his throw was incredible. The range that he managed to put in it from his own box almost up to the halfway. It was a really good throw to set it up, and that takes a bit of guts to do as well because there's always that risk when you're throwing the long balls like that. It can get intercepted easily by a speedy winger and whatnot. But he took a risk and it paid off. I mean, had Luke not had Luke not given it to Marcus Rashford, Dean Henderson would have actually had an assist, funnily enough. But I mean, the run from Shaw was incredible. I mean, you see the way that he takes it. He lets it kind of flick up against his foot, bounces off his stomach then when he beats Cancelo, races it up, squares it to Rashford. Rashford gives it back and he tries his luck and he shoots. And I mean, of all times for Luke Shaw to score, in a big game like the Manchester Derby, it's an important time to score. And I mean, he's, being called the best left back in the world at the moment, which might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm not going to say that he's not the best left back in the league because I do think he is. So for him to show up in a game like this now, his last, I think, 7 games, he's had 5 or 6 goals and assists combined. And I mean, for him to just grab this goal in such an important match, it does show off a lot of what's good about him. But back to Dean Henderson, I mean, I thought he was great yesterday. And I mean, the last couple of games I've watched him, sure, fair enough, you can argue that his opposition has been easier in some games, but I mean, I think he's had 17 games this season, I think, and he's had 9 clean sheets and only 9 goals conceded. And I mean, when you watch him, especially from set pieces in the corners, he's always jumping out to catch the ball. He makes his presence known, and that is something that Man United need in a goalkeeper. They really need to hold on to him. And when players are approaching the box, Dean runs out and challenges them himself. And I mean, even when he takes the ball after a save, he isn't afraid to be a sweeper keeper. He runs up with it, brings it up a bit, and then passes out. It's good qualities to have, and he's such a young player as well. He's definitely just going to get better and better over the next couple of years. Man United really have a good talent in their hands.
Fionn Daniel James, he's had a consistent run of starts now, and he's in absolutely flying form. And I look at him and I see a guy who's really playing with confidence. What has changed, do you think, for Daniel James in recent times, up till now?
Yeah, I think obviously was it the season before this one. He started out as we just signed him, and he started out with a bang. Like, he was great, and he was in flying form. But then it just dipped off. He kind of went off to the subs for a bit. So he hadn't been playing for a long time. So whenever he gets the chance, he's always trying to make that impact to show like that he's worth it. He should be in this Man United team. And I'm sure he looked in the areas where he needed to improve, like on the ball, his attacking positioning, his finishing. And the past few games, he's been great getting in there. He's been running in behind the back defender onto crosses. He's been backtracking up and down the wing. He's just been phenomenal overall for the team, and he's been helping them out so much.
He offers Fionn, he offers a different sort of a threat, really, up against Zinchenko, who I wouldn't consider the fastest left back. Like, no doubt he's been in flying form this season, and I rate him very highly, especially this season, as I said. But Daniel James does definitely offer something different out in the right hand side, especially and he is dribbling with a lot of confidence, and he's winning back a lot of ball, and his work rate is absolutely phenomenal, and his fitness, like to make a 40-50 yard burst at the end of the game yesterday is just something else. And like, what do you think that's down to, I suppose? What has, I suppose, fundamentally changed with his game?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is his mindset. And he always has so much pace and energy. He's ready to go. And his mindset is he wants to be in this Man United team, and there's nothing that he's going to try let stop him from that. because he was out for a while when he was at one point the star man in that last season. So he's back in and he's trying to make the biggest impact he can in every game to prove he's worth it for this team.
Liam, I suppose a very difficult way for Pep to lose in this one, because I suppose the one that he never wants to lose is one on the counterattack. I suppose we've seen it with sort of Real Madrid, where he never really seems to admit that they're the better team. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but it's sort of a recurring theme with Pep Guardiola that it's the sort of thing he'll say, like, they've got fast players, they've got a few good players, a few fast forwards, but I think tactically he was really outplayed by Solskjaer yesterday, and it is a rare sight. But I think, Solskjaer's record with Man City is 100 away from home, 100%. Would I be right in saying that? You see, I found it very interesting how, for the second goal with Luke Shaw, Pep Guardiola always commits men forward. And, I do think, do you think that's what he's asked people to do?
Well, explain that to me again, really, because I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, so, what I'm trying to say might have been a bit of a mouthful. Pep Guardiola commits players forward. And I know, John Stones wasn't set in behind. So, is the blame for the second goal entirely João Cancelo for, I suppose, committing and making Shaw's mind up for him? Or is it Pep Guardiola's fault as, a tactical fault in the team?
Not really. I think a lot of it came down to, I think, just Shaw's run himself, and I think miscommunication, really. I think the Man City defenders panicked when they saw Shaw come up like that, because, they've obviously known that Shaw is a danger this season. And you could kind of see, Stones and Cancelo both closed in on Rashford when he squared it to him, thinking Rashford was going to cut in on the left and shoot, but Shaw kept himself as an option in the middle. And then they ran from Rashford to Shaw, thinking they could close him down, because they didn't think he was going to shoot, because Shaw had no goals this season. But that's where they let their guard down. Even Ederson didn't think he was going to shoot, and then he just took a quick shot off his left foot, and it was in the bottom right corner. If you watch the replays, Ederson doesn't even react to it. He just watches the ball roll into the goal kind of helplessly, because he obviously didn't expect it either. I don't think any of the Man City defence expected him to shoot. That's because of the kind of player that he is. It's kind of, I guess, you wouldn't really expect someone like Harry Maguire to take a shot. I think they just they didn't expect it, and that's their problem, really. I think they really underestimated what Shaw was going to do there, and they really didn't take it seriously. And I think that's where they kind of made their mistake.
Liam, Liverpool, a loss to Chelsea in a sort of a very convincing performance from Tuchel's side, and from Mason Mount.
Yep, star man.
Yeah, he did. Well, definitely he was. And then Mario Lemina for Fulham, and I have a few interesting statistics here. Obviously Liverpool have never lost 6 home games in a row. Never. It's never happened. I don't think it has happened, but it has. Yes, it hasn't happened to Liverpool before. So they're breaking records here, which is just phenomenal. And I said this to you beforehand, before we started recording. I saw a statistic there today that Liverpool have one goal from play at home this season in 2021.
One open play goal. Yeah.
One open play goal, yeah. One open play goal at home in 2021. The only other team in the top 5 leagues is Dijon, who are stapled to the foot of the league in Liga, and are obviously not up to scratch even for the Farmers League that is, the French First Division. It's so bizarre what's going on in Liverpool at the moment. And Liam, we talked about this countless times on the podcast about them being bad champions, said by Roy Keane. Are you finally willing to admit that they are indeed bad champions?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think a reason that shines a lot is I'm looking at players like Mo Salah, etc. And I think I'm not trying to make it personal against him, but I think him and the front three are a big reason that Liverpool are the way that they are now. Because, like you said, one open play goal that came from Curtis Jones. I mean, the last time Liverpool scored more than one in a game was West Ham United, and that was 3-1. It wasn't the most convincing win. I mean, Mo Salah doesn't look happy at all at Liverpool, and I mean, he's been there for I think 3 or 4 years. He's won the Champions League. He's won the Premier League. You know, I think he's starting to want to go somewhere else. He's won the trophies he's needed to and wanted to at this club. And I think he just looks like he wants to leave. He doesn't look happy on the pitch at all.
Liam,
Doesn't
that's
look like he wants to be playing.
You see, but that's an interesting one. But I mean, who's going to take a sort of an aging Mohamed Salah on the wages that he's on? I mean, unless someone like PSG is interested, like, who would you suggest? I do actually want to make the point quickly that I do think I sort of disagree. And I didn't really understand why, against Chelsea he was taken off. I didn't really understand that one because, if you're going to, leave someone on, it's going to be the guy that only needs a quarter of a chance to score. But I mean, this guy, like, I would think that most
Yeah,
Salah,
but the problem is, you say he needs a quarter of a chance to score, but when he's gotten those quarter chances in the last 5 or 6 games, he hasn't taken any of them. His only goal in the last 6 games is a penalty.
I know, but I mean, I think, yeah, maybe you're right, but I think that Mohamed Salah is the only one that could really look back on this season statistically.
I mean, obviously he's top scorer.
But I think he's the only one who could look at it and think he had a half decent season. But I mean, like, you wouldn't be focusing on any of this were they top of the league, 10 points clear with 11 games to go. You wouldn't be thinking that. Sure, I mean, you don't need to look any further than Roberto Firmino in the last few years. But like what I am saying, I definitely do think, Mane. But I mean, who's going to take a player like Mane or Salah now? Like, they obviously do need to have a lot of restructure in the club, and I don't really see where that's going to come from,
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot that they could do to fix that. I mean, they're after signing Diogo Jota, who can be their new number 9 easily. Let him take the place of Bobby Firmino, because he's a terrible number 9. I don't quite know what his highest score season was, but his numbers between this season and last season have been horrible. And I understand he plays other roles in the team, but it's the same as Martial. If you're not scoring goals, you can't be a number 9, because the whole point of the number 9 is to score goals. You're the striker, you're the front man. And yeah, you can contribute in other areas, but if you're not scoring, then what's the point? And I mean, Sadio Mane, this is probably his most terrible season. Yeah, I think he has 5 goals in the Premier League this season. He looks like a shell of his former self. And I mean, Mohamed Salah went in at Christmas break with, I think, 14 goals, and he's gone up by 3 in the last 3 months. It's only a matter of time before Bruno Fernandes or Harry Kane take the golden boot off him, because they will. I mean, Harry Kane had 2 goals again against Crystal Palace. So, I mean, when it comes to figuring out these problems, I think Jurgen Klopp, he made a statement, and that's, if we aren't playing Champions League football next season and players aren't happy about it, they can leave. And that's fair enough, because, I mean, from the looks of it in that team, it looks as if people like Salah aren't confident about them getting Champions League, and it looks as if he doesn't want to be there because of that. And if that's the attitude he has, then Jurgen Klopp is obviously saying to him, you can leave. And I mean, fair enough, you say, who would want an aging Mo Salah? But the guy isn't 30 even. He's still got a couple of years left, and his first season at Liverpool, his numbers were insane. I mean, if he went to a tiny bit of an easier league, Serie A, Ligue 1, I mean, he would tear it up there. And clubs like PSG have the money, and if he really wanted to go there, they probably could sign him. Mauricio Pochettino probably wouldn't mind it playing with him. I mean, he scored a penalty against Tottenham in that Champions League final, and Pochettino will probably think to himself, this guy's a great player. I've watched him in the Premier League for years. I played so many games against him. He beat me in a final. He's a great player I could use for my team, and he looks unhappy in his current team. They could offer him a bigger and better wage. They could guarantee him Champions League football. Whereas, while he's at Liverpool, I mean, he's won a Premier League. He's won a Champions League. His team are like a sinking ship at the moment. I mean, if an offer comes up from a team that's in the top 4 across Europe, like Juventus or someone like Inter Milan,
Yeah, but I
Real
mean,
Madrid,
that's the whole
Barcelona,
thing. It's not going to happen. No one's
but
gonna
we
no
don't know
one's
that.
really gonna want it, especially
But
in the COVID climate. I just can't see that happening.
but I do think it's going to be a case of, I think if Liverpool really do want to offload him, they can probably offload him for something like 70 mil, 75 mil, which I think would be good value for Mo Salah at this kind of current state. And they could probably do with offloading Bobby Firmino as well for, I don't know, 20 million odd, 25 million. I mean, to generate funds for better players. Because, I mean, they signed Thiago last summer and he just hasn't worked out for them. He's a world class player, World Cup winner, Champions League winner, but he just doesn't quite work with Jurgen Klopp's team, and that might just be because of how limited his midfield options are at the moment. So maybe that might change when more midfielders come back, like Jordan Henderson especially. But he just hasn't fit into the team at all. He's 0 goals or assists, and I know his position doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be getting them. But to be fair, as a midfielder, you'd expect at least the odd 1 or 2 assists, the odd goal or 2. He has 0 goal contributions, and I mean, it's just worrying. And I mean, you can make the argument too, Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip, they're all out injured, and that's fair enough. But I mean, you can't keep using that as an excuse when your forwards are about when your forwards are as clinical as a team like Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield United have probably scored more goals at home this year than Liverpool, and I could be wrong, and I'm mostly just saying that as a joke. But I mean, really, if Fulham have more goals at home this season than Liverpool, and that's just worrying for them. I mean, where does it go from here? I don't know. And I mean, Jurgen Klopp is a great manager. I mean, he's managed some great teams, Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool. And I mean, he's guided Liverpool to so much success. He turned them back into a top club. But something's just happened this season.
Liam, and I do want to ask Fiona a question there in a second, but since you did bring up Borussia Dortmund, in that sort of pathetic, bad season they had at the end, where they were, at the bottom of the league at Christmas, in interviews, statistically, Jurgen Klopp would basically come out and be like, a journalist would be like, Jurgen, statistically you're all over the place and you're losing a lot of games, and then, Jurgen Klopp would be like, okay, did you see the game? We were absolutely robbed. And then, we were really unlucky. And the journalist would be like, oh, no, I only saw the highlights, or I only saw the score, and so on. And it was kind of chalked down to a really bad run of bad luck. Is the same thing happening at Liverpool now?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, yeah, but I think you can blame it on the injuries. You can blame it on whatever you want. I think, no matter how many times you blame it on the injuries, it's not good enough. Like, Leicester have had loads of injuries this season. They've had Jamie Vardy out. James Maddison is out at the moment. Justin, is it centre back or right back is out? And they've had a lot of injuries, and they're still third, challenging for second place. And they just they haven't been doing good enough. There's a huge lack in morale at the club. Like you were saying earlier, none of the players look happy. And I think you can't really chalk it down to bad luck when you watch the performances. They've just been terrible, really.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Fulham game, the last half an hour of it, and I mean, towards the end, Klopp brought on Trent Alexander, and the tactics just turned into, Trent takes it up, crosses it in, hopes for the best. And I mean, if you're playing hoping for Champions League or Europa League football, that is not what you need to be doing, because that was it was a bad idea. I mean, Klopp, I imagine he was probably worried and a bit panicked, thinking this is going to be my 6th loss. He brought on Trent, and for the last half an hour, it was just Trent bringing it up from the right hand side, crossing it in, and hoping it meets someone. And I mean, the way the attackers even took it as well. I mean, watching Sadio Mane try and take it, it was terrible. I mean, there's a lot wrong with them at the moment, and it is solvable. It's solvable for any team. I mean, Manchester United at the start of the season were a shambles to watch. They were terrible. But I mean, it took them a month or two, but they got back on track. And I mean, maybe in time with Liverpool, maybe give them another month or two. Maybe they might qualify for the Europa League. Maybe they might qualify for the Champions League. But come the end of the season, there's still 30 points left to get. Liverpool, currently at the moment, I think they are sitting on 43 points from what I remember. I mean, there's still 30 points left for grabs, And I mean, Liverpool's sitting 43 points, 30 points left for grabs. They can still finish on 73, which isn't bad. And I mean, for 73 points, you'd usually expect a team to get into the top four. That is assuming that they win all their games, and they might not. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Jurgen Klopp is going to really make it obvious to them soon how important it is that they need to win these games, because otherwise there's going to be a complete collapse of the club. I mean,
Liam, just I do want to get your opinions on something there quickly. Currently, Steven Gerrard is after, winning the Scottish Premiership with Rangers.
Yeah, well done.
Would he be a good enough successor to Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, or I mean, what are your opinions on that?
I think he should wait until next season, because Rangers now I think they've gotten a Champions League place, from what I know. So I think Gerrard needs to wait until next season, where he gets put into a Champions League group, and I think he needs to be tested. I think he needs to be put into a group, not a group of death, but just hope Rangers can be put into a group with a tough opposition. Say someone like, I don't want to go too difficult, but say they're put into a group with someone like Inter Milan or something like that, and they need to see how Steven Gerrard is able to cope with teams like that. And I know people are going to say, well, Jesus, how is Rangers of the Scottish League meant to cope with the probable Serie A winners? But it doesn't come down to the players. I'm talking about examining Steven Gerrard's tactics in these games. And they need to see where the tactics go. And then maybe mid-season, if Gerrard has either qualified in the Champions League, or even came third in his group, or if he's done well enough, especially with tactics, then I think Liverpool could seriously consider bringing him in as their next manager. I mean, you can't just say, Steven Gerrard has the Liverpool DNA. Not only that, I mean, he's just won Rangers' first Scottish League title in, I think, 10 years. And it's their 55th title. And I mean, Scottish fans of Rangers have been waiting for that for years. And I mean, they've gone the season undefeated. 28 wins, 4 draws, 0 losses. That is impressive, no matter what league, no matter where you're from. That is very, very impressive. So I think they will be looking into it eventually. I do think they will.
Yeah, obviously sick to the stomach that has happened to Rangers, and what can you do? They went for the 10 in a row. It's not the first time that Celtic have been stopped by Rangers for the 10 in a row, but it is definitely an interesting one. Like, off the top of my head, Fionn, I would think maybe someone like Mick McCarthy could take the Celtic job. Obviously, they are currently without a manager. Have you any other ideas on who could, or what sort of setup they need to go for next season?
Not really, no, because I don't even follow much of the Scottish League or Celtic. But yeah, maybe Mick McCarthy. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know much about that league. But obviously, like you were saying with Steven Gerrard, he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, he's in the round of 16 now. Is it in the Europa League?
Yeah.
Playing Bayern Leverkusen. So see how he does against them then as well. But yeah, as far as it goes with Celtic, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Liam, have you any ideas on that before we move on?
I still do think that, like I said, in time he could be a good successor. Like I said, give him a test against Champions League opposition next season, whether it be Slavia Praha, Inter Milan, or Manchester United, or whatever, or Wolfsburg, just any team in the Champions League, because the Champions League is considered, where all the top teams in each of the leagues go to compete. So I think Liverpool just need to see how he does there for starters. And I mean, like I said, it's not about the quality of his Rangers players. It's more about his tactics and the way that he deploys his team against these teams in the Champions League. And I mean, if he gets his tactics right, he should either be winning these games or drawing them. So if they give it, a couple of months, wait until September when the Champions League starts. Because I mean, like I said, Rangers have guaranteed their place within the Champions League now. They've won the Scottish League, and now they're guaranteed the Champions League place. So Liverpool should give it a couple of months, see how he does in his first maybe month of Champions League football as a manager. Then from there, they can decide whether or not to take him as manager. And it is a bit different because obviously, people make arguments about the quality of the Rangers football team isn't as good as, if he was managing Liverpool. But I mean, at the moment, by current form, I'd be betting on Rangers to beat this Liverpool side. So...
Oh, and I don't know now.
No, I do really think that they would. I mean, 28 games unbeaten compared to 6 losses at home in a row.
I think it's a bit of a stretch.
I know it's a bit. It's a bit. It is a bit of a stretch. But I'm talking about on current form. I mean, if Rangers and Liverpool played each other right now, why would Liverpool even be thinking they could win? 6 home losses in a row. Not even in a top 6 spot.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah.
Against an unbeaten side that's just won the Scottish League for the first time in 10 years under their old manager, I don't think that would go their way at all. So I'd be betting on Rangers to win on current form.
I can see what you're saying, but at the same time, the competition in the Premier League is much higher compared to the Scottish League.
Yeah, but I mean,
even
Fulham.
Teams nowadays.
Like the best team in Scotland.
Oh, I know.
Is surely
I know that
Fulham,
they've lost to. Yeah, but I can understand what you're saying, but I still think it's a slight bit of a stretch just because those Scottish teams mightn't be used to playing against Premiership teams.
That's an interesting, actually, Liam. And I'll go to you then, Fionn. Where are Rangers finishing in the Premier League if they're in the Premier League?
11th.
11th. Any particular reason, or is that just a sort of a ballpark position for you?
Both, because I do think while the quality of the Scottish League is much lower, I still think that if they came into the Premier League, they definitely would not be a relegation side. No way.
But yeah,
and
I mean, in the...
Steven Gerrard is a manager. He's played in the Premier League for years. He knows a lot about it, and I do think that his awareness of what goes on in the Premier League would be able to guide him a bit. But they'd obviously struggle against teams like Manchester City, Chelsea. I feel like they finished just outside the top 10, but not a relegation.
It's every week. That's the thing. Like, you can afford to rest players in the Scottish Premier League, and I mean James Tavernier, their captain and best player, obviously, arguably, I suppose, really, was a sort of a Newcastle reject, really. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, Fionn, just an interesting one to get your opinions on it. Where are Rangers finishing in the league for you?
I think they'd finish between 10th and 13th. Because even on the table now, Liam says if they came 11th, that's fairly close to where they could finish, because that would be between Arsenal and Leeds if they were 11th. And yeah, probably around, because I don't think they'd make the top 10. Because considering Aston Villa are 9th and Arsenal are 10th and Arsenal are back into form now.
I don't think they would. I think they'd get relegated.
I don't think they'd be relegated.
I don't agree with that at all.
I don't think they could get relegated when, you have Sheffield, West Brom, Fulham,
they
Newcastle.
wouldn't get relegated.
But
I mean,
for me, they are like... But they are like West Brom.
You can't compare a team like Sheffield United who have 14 points.
I can't.
Okay,
I can't see them
out of a possible
finishing
84.
further below 15th, because that's what Burnley are. Like Southampton are just above them. 15th is a push.
I think that, yeah, I know, but I mean, is it unfair to compare this Sheffield United team to Derby? And obviously, the team that just got 11 points and were being spanked about 5-0 every week. I don't think so, because a lot of them have been like 1-0s and like 2-1s and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, it's just an interesting one. And on to another sort of funny situation last week, Fionn. Arsenal, Granit Xhaka, um, has sort of tried to. I don't really know what he's tried to do. He's sort of tried to sweep the ball across his own sort of penalty area, and it's hit off Chris Wood, and it's just gone into the back of the net. I mean, what? Might as well talk about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
It was an absolute
pretty
blunder
funny,
by
like.
him. Oh yeah, it was poor by him. Poor.
yeah. I'm not sure what happened. It's a terrible pass, and it just like I said, it hits Chris Wood and it goes in. But I don't know what happens there. Like I think I saw a stat either. I think it's for Arsenal. He's been the player that has the most errors leading to a goal for them in the past 2 years. And there was a lot of speculation over last year with like the captaincy and everything, but yeah, with that with that goal, I don't know what's happened. Like
He's just such a sausage. Like I absolutely love watching him. Like because when you click on an Arsenal match, you don't know whether it's going to be like David Luiz, scoring an own goal,
Yeah.
Trippier, Tierney
one
falling
thing, though.
over his feet.
Or Nicholas
Yeah.
Pepe and Willian having the crossbar challenge with each other.
Oh, what do you think about the not given penalty
Oh,
and all the
that
penalty
was
situations?
that was pretty controversial. I mean, I know VAR came in to intervene. I would have said it was a penalty, in my opinion.
It
I
all
would
starts
think
against.
the same thing. I would think the same thing.
All starts with United against Chelsea, and you can understand why that's not given.
I don't know. Can
Chelsea
you?
play Liverpool. Well, there's debates, but then Chelsea
if that
play
happens with his foot,
Liverpool.
let's just sorry to cut across you, but if that happens with his foot
Yeah.
and he trips over Greenwood, then that's a penalty. I don't know.
Yeah.
Continue what you're saying anyway.
Then Chelsea play Liverpool, and Kante's hand is well away from his body. It's stretched out. The ball has hit his hand from across, but that's not given either. And then is it the Tottenham game or no, the Fulham game? And it hits the Fulham's defender's arm that's right next to his body, and then the other team get a penalty. And then there's Burnley versus Arsenal, and hand is out, it hits his hand, and there's no penalty.
Yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, it's an interesting one because, Liam, I suppose, because I actually was planning to talk about this situation, because it is very important. Why do you think that so much more penalties are being given?
Well, VAR is a big factor. I mean, I think the Premier League, I think one of it is actually the attitude of the players. And I think by that, I know that might seem retarded and stupid, but, well, not retarded, that's probably not the right word to use. But while it might sound stupid to say that, when you look at players going into the boxes, like any player, I won't give examples because I don't want to target any players. There's a couple I have in my mind. Players are going down to the box much easier as if they've just broken their entire body. And VAR isn't being used correctly by the officials. And you look at the team then of the player who's gone down with the dive, and they are screaming in the face of the referee for penalties. They are screaming. It's some of the most disgusting stuff I've ever seen, the way the players treat the referees in the sport. They are in the face, pushing him, screaming at him, waving their hands, everything. And I mean, it's horrible. It's disgusting stuff. And I mean, the referees then probably feel a bit under pressure. They go over to the VAR monitor, and even if it isn't a penalty, they're going to give it because it's like they're probably a bit afraid. I mean, you got players screaming in their faces for penalty, and I know as a referee you have to be strong and do your job, but I mean, at the same time, they're human as well, and you've got 9 or 10 grown men surrounding you who are probably bigger than you as well, threatening you, saying give the fucking penalty. And I mean, it's scary for them, and I feel like that is one reason. It's the attitude of the players towards the referee and the game itself is toxic, and the misuse of VAR by officials as well is not helping. I mean, even they seem confused on the rules. The FA and FIFA need to do a better job at implementing handball rules and penalty rules, because it's like certain games there penalties are awarded for certain things, but then that exact same thing happens in a different game, and it doesn't make a difference. It isn't given, and it's confusing.
Fiona?
Yeah, but Liam, one question. If you have to choose VAR, stay or go right now, what do you think?
Stay under the right provision.
It
Yeah,
will improve.
because
It will
the thing-
improve, like no doubt. Like
will,
all things
but
do, it will improve.
Thing is, people, as soon as you get rid of it and a free or a penalty isn't given, they'll be like, oh, why can't VAR check that or something, you
You're
know?
gonna have Henry
like, how come
versus
that's-
Ireland 2010 all over again, like.
Yeah. And there'll just be so much complaining then, why can't it be checked and stuff? All I think it needs to do is they need to fix the rule set and the system and how it works.
Fionn, thank you so much for talking to us tonight on our sort of our weekly recap on the Premier League and soccer at large. Stay with us right now for Liam, who's going to give us a quick preview on the Six Nations coming up. So, Liam, Jacob Stockdale has been recalled into the Irish team ahead of the game against Scotland.
Yeah, fair play. I'm happy for him.
So I would just basically like to take this segment of the podcast just to sort of round it off, and you can sort of lead us on a quick preview of what is to be expected and what is yet to come.
Oh no! The Guinness Six Nations is definitely going to heaten up with the way the table's looking at the moment, and this week is definitely a penultimate week. You know, France are going to be looking to hammer England with the form they're in. Scotland will want it to be prove a point to Ireland after the 1912 loss last season, in which Stuart Hogg did drop the ball, which could have ended it in a draw. Ireland will be looking to bounce back from their couple of opening defeats. Not only that, Scotland are still chasing the title. They've played one game less than everyone else, and they were unfortunate losers to Wales. And finally, Wales themselves will be looking to secure their Grand Slam hopes by, hopefully, in their opinion, crushing Italy. So it's going to be a very good week. I can't really place bets in anyone bar France, really, and Wales. I can't place a bet in that Ireland-Scotland game. Scotland will be out looking to try and build their title hopes back up after they lost, unfortunately, by a point to Wales. Ireland will be looking to recover from their disastrous opening rounds. There's a lot on the line for both teams there. As for Wales, it's pretty obvious that they will probably steamroll that Italian side. And, you know, if they get the bonus point win, they have hopes of winning the title. I mean, if any team beat France, then it is looking likely Wales are either going to win the title or the Grand Slam this season. And it's going to come down to the last week. You know, assuming that France do beat Scotland and they beat England, which they should be beating both, the final match is Wales versus France. And that's going to be a very interesting game to watch, the Grand Slam decider. It'll be very entertaining. It'll be a true show of skill. Wayne Pivac will want to be showing off how his side really works after a full year in charge. Fabien Galtier will want to be showing off that his young French side that he's built up over the last 2 years is finally ready to win a title. It's going to be a very, very interesting ending to the Six Nations this year.
Liam, thank you so much for talking to me this evening. I know it's getting late, so I'll let you go. So you can join us on this podcast for previews of the Six Nations and a recap of all sport, soccer, rugby, GA, golf, etc. Liam, thank you so much. Thank you at home for listening to the Sideline Podcast.
Thanks, Anna.